All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here. And today I have Tanisha Graham with me. She is a professional dance choreographer, and she is a gifted visionary artist. She is able to create and direct and provide visual artistry in fine arts and business. Tanisha is very successful and she has a very successful podcast called Cue the Creative. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. This podcast has been born out of the COVID-19 quarantine, and she was inspired to educate and spark creativity in people across the world. Tanisha is also the Chief Visionary Officer in
All
Inside
right.
Out Institute, where she writes curriculum for the program. So, welcome everyone. Today's going to be amazing. We're going to talk about how to overcome our fear through our creative outlets. So, if I missed anything, go ahead and tell me a little bit more about yourself, anything you would like to share with everyone.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I'm honored to be asked to be interviewed by you. I love what you're doing with healing the survivor. I am so absolutely impressed by your leadership. And I love how your story is turning into a mission. And that is what true leaders do is they, as leaders, we all know that there's something inside us to lead. And I think a lot of us get caught up in that because we think we have to, be someone's
Right.
savior. But really, we're just the teacher, and you're a great teacher. And I'm just so honored to be here. And I thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. So, I want to ask you some questions. Um, First off, tell me a little bit about the Inside Out Institute. What are you doing and how are you helping shift the world through this program?
Absolutely. Well, about a year ago, I hired Todd Cahill, who is an amazing author. He's a best-selling author. He's an entrepreneur who's just done very, very well for himself. And I had been following him for actually 5 years on social media. I heard him speak in Dallas, Texas, with probably, I guess, about 15,000 people. And I remember being in awe of him because I thought, he's so young. How is he so successful? Where does he get this drive from? And I followed him and, just watching his posts for years. And one day he sent me a messenger message asking if I would like him to be my coach to help me with my book. And I was writing a book at the time. And so I jumped on it and I thought, Todd Cahill's not going to call me. That's so funny. And he actually called me. That was a year ago in June. And gosh, it's been such a journey, Jacqueline. Honestly, there's been so much that I've had to learn, both on the conscious and subconscious side. But first of all, on the conscious side, just dealing with the daily things that I did day in and day out, or did not do day in and day out, that were holding me back, both creatively and professionally. And he just really helped me. I will say I was a really good student. I don't
Mhm.
miss I don't miss a call. I don't complain. I show up. And the beautiful thing is they noticed that in me and offered me a position as the Chief Visionary Officer of Inside Out Institute. And why I'm so passionate about this is because I actually have a personal experience with it. So Todd does the conscious side, and then Emmanuel Zavalos does the subconscious side with emotion code and body code, which I know that you're a practitioner in as well, Jacqueline. And really just the freedom that you receive from that kind of healing session, it's incredible. It's a God-given gift that everybody needs to know about. And so I'm passionate about sharing that. And what I do for the Institute is I write curriculum, and then I also organize their events and just am a visionary. I'm there to give my ideas. And it's so amazing to step into what you feel is such an easy role for you because you're using your gifts. And so my goal is to teach women and even young men how to just step into their gifting and learn how to use their gifts. And then it's like the law of attraction just comes at you. Everybody notices, I need this person. I've got to have this person for my company. And that's just how it works. And so I'm so blessed and so thankful to be a part of it. And that is the Inside Out Institute.
It's amazing. I've only been in it for what, almost a month now? I think almost a month. And it's
Yes.
like completely shifted my life. It's amazing because you have
Seriously.
so many like people that are on the same path as you and they're all encouraging you. And you guys are amazing, like Todd and Tanisha and Emmanuel, they're all great. So if you haven't joined the Institute, go and sign up now because
You need to do it.
yeah, there's not
We're
that many
changing.
spots left. Yeah, it's life changing. So
Totally.
let's talk about like overcoming our fears. What does that like mean to you? How do you overcome your fear? Is this just subconscious or consciously? Like what do you do?
That's a really good question. Well, I think when we have fears that are controlling us, like really strong fears, I think we need to understand that fears are normal and we all have fear. And it's a real emotion that we all have, and we can either use it to drive us or we can use it to hold us back. But I think when it holds us back is when we have just this reel in our mind of these thoughts. And most of the time they're not even true. Like they
Mm-hmm.
haven't even yet. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And then this reel starts in our mind, and it's this crazy cycle that we can't get out of because we are caught up in our thoughts. And so to me, it's more of just breaking a thought pattern, which seems like it's easy just saying it, but it's not. And I think it's okay for people to understand that they can ask for help. And it's not bad to say, you know what, this is too much for me. I can't do this alone. I need a mastermind group behind me. I either need a counselor or I need a coach or I need a practitioner to help me through this. And part of it is just really realizing that, because the more people that you have around you that are pouring into you, the more that fear can be released. But one thing that I learned from Todd, and it really is just so crucial to understand with fear, is massive action presses out fear.
Mm-hmm.
So you are taking massive action on your life and you are just really setting your goals and driving towards those things daily. Fear doesn't have a place because you're focused on your goals and you're focused on action. And so I think it's important to make that shift and switch to action. But like I said, sometimes that's hard. And
Mm-hmm.
you've been through crazy hard things that you can't do alone. And I think I just want people to know that it's okay to ask for help, because
Yeah.
that's life, and we're human and we all have seasons, and you just have to rate your fear. Can I deal with this with mind over matter, or do I need a team? And sometimes you
Right.
need a team, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the Healing Survivors group is about, is lifting one another up. We have people from all sorts of backgrounds, cultures, like everything is just in this group. And so it's amazing to see like, everyone improving and moving towards the direction that they want to
Yeah.
go. It's amazing to see, even like stepping back and looking at just COVID-19 as an example. Like you can
Oh,
see
yeah.
people shifting and they're looking around like, what is everyone else doing? And I'm going to say like majority of everyone's like, I'm not trying to be stuck in my own body anymore. I want to transform. I want to go and reach my full potential, which is also like what we're doing right now. We're stepping out of
Yeah.
our shells, trying to inspire others like, hey, you can do it. You could be 10 years old and shifting. You could be 100 years old and shifting. It doesn't, like, age doesn't really matter. So
Absolutely.
it's amazing. So you said that your podcast came out of COVID. So how was that? What were you thinking when you started like, hey, this is what needs to come and happen right now?
Well, that's a good question. I had dance studios for years, and I missed the creative aspect of work. I taught school for 3 years. I taught little tiny pre-K children, and I love those little cute babies. But there was something creative in me that wasn't fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard when you are a performer or when you are in the performing arts, because you get this bug, I call it. And it has to always be fed like an artist,
Mm-hmm.
an artist, you can't just, you know, read books for 14 days and not paint.
Right.
have to let out your creative gifts. And so I have felt a little stifled as far as just letting my creative gifts flow since I closed the studio 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And
Mhm.
so I've been searching for an outlet, and I love to learn from other people. I feel like if you're not learning, then you're declining. And so I love to learn from other people. And I just felt like there was this big gap. Here we have this huge problem of COVID-19, and there's so many issues that we're facing, down to our kids' mental health. That's
Mhm. Yeah.
like kids with, like, I have kids that my oldest, he is super, super extroverted. He
Mhm.
needs to be around people. So
Right.
what do I do for these kids? I mean, I need to talk to a child psychologist about this. What do I do about if I have a book in me and I have extra time? I need to talk to authors so they can empower these women. I just wanted to gather all these masterminds and just set it out into the world so that people could maybe gain information and be inspired, and that it would spark their creativity. Because in me, that's what I needed. I needed a spark of creativity. I needed that my fire to be lit. And so the way that I could think of doing that was just to reach out to other just amazing people and just be inspired by them and just let the world just witness it.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah,
how it
that's
came.
amazing.
It's been so fun. I mean, what's interesting is it started flowing so easy. Once you really figure out what you want to do and where your heart is aligned, it's like God says his yoke is easy. It was easy. It just was flowing. And I was getting amazing responses from these people I was reaching out to inspire my audience. And
Mhm.
it's just been such a gift to me. And I'm just very thankful. But I want people to know that it's good to see that this pandemic obviously has been tragic in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. But good things can come out of it if you have a servant's heart and want to serve others, and just get your mind off yourself for a minute, get your mind off your fears for a minute, and just think about, how can I help other people? How can I serve other people? And y'all, I'm telling you, a lot of joy lies there. A lot of joy lies in that servanthood. And and that's, I think, what I've found in the podcast.
Mhm. Like even I have like searched for creative outlets. Like I went to like beadwork and beading earrings. I'm like,
Yes.
that's okay. Let's move on
Yeah,
to something else. Then I found like my motivation was learning different cooking techniques. And so I was learning through food.
I
And
love
then
it.
I went through, I'm gonna write music and I was writing some lyrics because I sing. And I was like,
I love it.
you have to express yourself, especially during like this time. Creativity is super important, and I even know like it's healing. When I was going through my own healing journey about 5 years ago, the only thing that was like helping me, I mean, besides like my community and doing my emotion and body code and, all these different outlets, like movement therapy and art therapy was one of the top things that, if I just needed to get out of my
Yeah.
headspace for a second, I would start drawing or I'd sing or I would dance.
Mhm.
So in your life, um, what was the biggest challenge you had to overcome, and then how did you use creativity to overcome those things?
That's a really good question. Well, dance is always my go-to. And even though I'm an old dancer, I still dance in this room, probably
Mhm,
than other rooms, because it's kind of off the side of the house. But, you know, James Brown, the legend, everybody knows who James Brown is.
mhm,
He said the one thing that can solve most of the world's problems is dancing.
mhm,
And because you are so connected, it's like you can't hide those emotions and those innermost thoughts just come out through movement. And one of my most favorite ways of dancing is lyrical. And
mhm,
in lyrical, you dance to the lyrics. And when I would teach my dancers, I would just say, it is your job to get this message across through movement. And And it was so fun to just see them transform into these like amazing communicators through dance. But it's going back to your question on the hardest thing I've ever been through was probably closing my dance studio.
Mhm.
There's been a couple hard things along the road, but that's the most recent. And the reason why, Jacqueline, is I believe that I had tied so much of my identity into that job.
Mhm.
That is what I was the most proud of. I was a dance teacher. I was a dancer. I was a director of shows. I was a choreographer. That was my most proud thing that I had done. And then when it all was gone, then I was left with dealing with who I really was inside
Mhm.
and just trying to journey through that. And so honestly, it was really weird for a couple of years. I had this weird thing about dancing because it reminded me of the studio and it reminded me of that pain. And that was my gifting. And so I was struggling. My knees were hurting. Dancers, I don't know if any of my dancers are listening, but I would struggle getting off the floor after stretching. My knees hurt so bad. I had chronic pain for probably 5 years,
Mhm.
so much pain and inflammation and struggling because I, for one, wasn't taking care of my body.
Mhm.
Second of all, I was just completely absorbed in something that wasn't me. It
Right.
was a thing that honestly I was addicted to the result of a
Mhm.
standing ovation. I was driven by that feedback of those parents being like, "You're the most amazing dance teacher. Oh, that show was incredible. I've never seen a ballet production like that. November Rain, that was insane." I mean, I fed off of those compliments.
Mhm.
And when all that was stripped away, I had to figure out how to motivate myself without the title, without the praise every third second, and I had to find just that my true self was still a dancer and I didn't have to do it for anyone, but that I would just dance in, my office or dance in my
Yeah.
bed, or dance in my driveway and create things, but not for someone to see. I
Mhm.
created it for my own healing and that movement and that breathing just relieves stress. It honestly
Right.
did.
Yeah, like even my sister is a professional ballet dancer, and I would go outside and she'd just be dancing, and I'll be like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm creating a piece for myself." And so
Yeah.
it's very inspiring, like to watch ballet dancers or any type of dancer of like how it's freeing for them. It's their way of communication. So,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to, let's just say, youth or dancers themselves that are going through this isolation time? What would you tell them? How would they heal through this through their own dance and movement?
Well, I think it's important to be reflective. And so when you're feeling something, and as you know, as an emotion code practitioner, when you're feeling something or reacting in a certain way, there may be an emotion that you need to release. And
Mhm.
so it's important to just really realize and journal how you're feeling when things come about, or when you don't feel like dancing, or when you feel like you have to dance to survive. I mean, dancers understand that. People that aren't dancers are like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is crazy. But you just have to journal and you have to be really self aware
Mhm.
you need. And don't let a job label you. I don't care what you are. You may have lost your job in this COVID-19 madness. And I hope that's not the case, but it's the reality for millions and millions of people. And so don't wrap your identity and your mental health around that job. That your job does not define you. You define you. And so you may
Mhm.
have to start writing down. Writing creates clarity of thought. And if you just write down, what am I interested in? Have I forgotten what I loved as a child? Have I forgotten, what made me happy when I would go out and dance in my driveway as a kid, or I would put on like these big dresses and go
Yeah.
dance in the field when I was a kid? And hopefully nobody saw me, but that's what made me happy. And it was before I understood criticism, and before I understood comparing myself to other women. And just try not to get wrapped up in that. And it is literally sometimes an every 30-minute check. Am I
Yeah.
comparing myself to someone else? Am I wrapping up my identity in my job? Like
Hmm.
sometimes you just have to let it go and move on.
Yeah.
It may end up being a huge blessing, you know?
Yeah. Like that's amazing. I love your story. Thank you.
Yeah.
So then if we were going to talk about, steps, how do we overcome our fears through a creative outlet? What would you think that looks like? How do you
Well,
go through that?
that's a great question. First of all, I think it looks different for everybody. You know, someone's creative outlet may be writing, someone's maybe painting, dancing. Um, some people just may like to sit and play with their kids with
Hmm.
on the front, in the front. It's all different for everybody, and I think that's the first thing we need to understand is it's okay to look up to people that are creative. You know, we all have mentors or people that we look up to that are artists or beautiful dancers. Like, your big sister was a dancer. I'm
Right.
sure you and was like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. I mean,
Right.
it's okay to look up to them, but get back to yourself. What makes you tick? What makes you stay up all night Googling something? What is exciting for you? And it may be home decor. It may be, painting ceramics. I don't know. Everybody's different. But I think when you stop comparing yourself to other people, then you can start finding your true passion again and what is fun for you. And when you are living in that like excitement of your talent, the possibilities are endless because say this is a random thought, but say I'm a really good painter with ceramics and I get back to that art and then I get into a Facebook group that they do ceramic arts and then someone notices my art and thinks it's amazing and asks me to put my stuff in a show and then it's just like
Hmm.
bombarding joy that comes back that you've been depriving yourself of for so long because you were trying to be a ballerina.
Right.
That's not your jam. So cut off what's not your jam and do what's your jam. And so that's like the short version. But I think that's important. And then also just taking a chance. It was a little nerve wracking contacting some of these authors for my podcast because I thought, I mean, they're not going to want to come on my show. Who am I? I don't even have a show yet.
Yeah.
It's so hard to begin, but beginning is the hardest step. And
Hmm.
once you start, then it's just like you just inch and inch and step up as you go and as you grow. So that would be my advice. I think step by
Yeah.
step, finding that creative outlet, but just know it's your own and don't try to copy other people because you're going to still just feel in the dark if you do that.
Yeah. And sometimes you can have even like belief systems that are saying, hey, we can't do this. You don't deserve happiness. And then
Yes.
we tell ourselves, okay, I don't deserve that, or I'm not worthy of even, you know, you get stuck in this belief of like, I can't provide for my own self. I have to depend on other people to make me happy. And I
Yeah.
think that's like shining light right now, especially is like, for example, like if your relationship is struggling, am I depending on their happiness to provide me happiness? And
Mhm.
trying to separate yourself of like, okay, I'm in charge of myself. What belief systems are making me feel like I can't do this myself? Or do you have a place to release your energy? Like
Mhm.
you can get in a fight with your partner and then, you're stuck fighting in that room, but
Right.
instead search for another outlet. How do I release this stress? Because sometimes you get like a big ball of energy and it gets so intense and you're just like, I
Yeah.
can't do this anymore. And you explode and you say things that you don't even mean. So I think even having a different perspective, like, okay, what do I believe? Why am I feeling this way? Or
Totally.
is this triggering from like a past
Mhm.
experience? So also being able to go to that creative outlet, release
Yeah.
whatever you're feeling, and then coming back and self-analyzing is, I think, is also like a really big part of that. Is like, okay, I can release it. Now I come back, analyze myself, what is happening, and then you can go and have that conversation with your partner or your family and say, hey, like I was out of line, or this is what triggered.
Yes.
So I think
That
that's also really important.
self-awareness is so real. And like you were talking about, just really be aware of how I felt and why I reacted that way, and write those things down. And like I said, they may need to call someone like yourself that's a
Hmm.
practitioner to help them work through those trapped emotions. That may
Right.
deep, deep, deep down that they didn't even sign up for that.
Right. It could be inherited. Could go
Yes.
back like 50 generations
Yeah.
of
It's like,
trauma.
oh, that's just the way I've always been. That's the way my mama is. Well,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, you have to sometimes know when to reach out, but you're so right. If you journal and if you are self aware, you can even help practitioners help you.
Hmm.
Like, well, I don't know, just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
What are you stuck on? Are you stuck in
Right.
your career? Are you stuck in relationships? You have to be self aware. You can't just live with this fog, because that is just a good way to stay stuck. And
Hmm.
my is for not anybody to live there. That's a yuck place to be. And
Hmm.
I believe that every single person on this earth is destined to be here. They all have gifts. They all have a purpose that will make them just feel joy. And I'm not saying they have to go find their purpose to be successful in life.
Hmm.
I'm saying they need to find their purpose to feel that inner joy and to
Right.
really just live their complete life. And it doesn't look like anybody else. And it's so hard with social media, with all these influences,
Hmm.
I mean it at us everywhere, thinking, oh, we have to be that size or we have to look like that.
Right.
And, I can't tell you how many times people tell me, I can't believe you wear that. Like, I couldn't pull that off. And I'm like, you couldn't pull off this hat? Like, it's not like my head's a different size.
Yeah.
Just don't care what. And so people just get these things like, I can't pull that off. You can pull off anything you want, from career to schooling to clothing. Anything you want, you can pull off. But you may need someone like yourself to pull it off of you,
Hmm.
of what's holding you back. And so I think it's important to notice what's wrong, notice your patterns, and then sometimes you have to seek help,
Yeah.
to get all of that just yuck pulled off of you.
Hmm. What advice would you give anyone who's struggling to overcome their fears right now?
Oh man, I would say, what are you thinking about right before you go to bed? What are you thinking about the second you wake up? That's probably your biggest fear. And then I would make a list. What can I do about this thing? Say your biggest fear is money. I've been there. Who have I been there? I've been in an ugly money situation where I had more bills than I had hairs on my head,
Hmm.
with the studio trying to close. And I mean, it still can kind of give me the heebie jeebies thinking about it. But first of all, you make a list with one column. What can I do about this? Well, I can sell my dance studio. Oh, that's not what I
Hmm.
want to do, but I could do that. That's in my control realm. What can I not help? These are the things I can't help. I can't help the time that it sells. I can't help, what kind of money I have today, but I can control my actions in starting
Hmm.
a business or doing something else. So just put your fears in two categories. What can you control and what can you not? And then your mind should shift just to what you can control, because the things you can't control are a waste of energy, they're a waste of time, and they're probably detrimental to your health, like they were to
Hmm.
mine. My knees were on fire. I mean, it was scary. Like, I thought I was going to have replacements on my knees. I thought, oh, I'm just an old dancer. It's wear and tear. My knees are perfect now
Right.
because I have realigned my energy. I've figured out that stress was hurting me chronically.
Hmm.
And so just really understanding what you can control and what you can't, and trying to turn off that pattern of a victim, that pattern of, well, nothing ever works out for me, or I wish I had a life like her, or I wish I had this or
Hmm.
that talent, because all that is causing energy to leave you when you could spend all that energy creating or taking up a new hobby, or even just reading a book and doing something for yourself that you enjoy. You may love just to read a book in a hammock. That
Hmm.
be what feeds your spirit. And what feeds your soul. Take the time to do that, and just understand how to dig deep into who you are, and just put some blinders on for a while and just say, okay, I'm not going to look at her or him or whatever. I'm just going to focus on me and what I can control, and just start writing down lists and just starting with a couple things a day. I used to tell some clients that I worked with that it's not a lot of list. It's not a lot of things. Like if you write 20 things on your to-do list tomorrow, you're going to wake up and you're going to do maybe one of them, and you're going to be overwhelmed, and then you're going to cry when you go to sleep. Don't write 20 things. Write not a lot of things, like 4. Start with 4. And if you rock those out, and then you can have a future to-do list, that's okay, so you don't forget. But just expect 4 things from yourself in one day. Just 4 things. You know, we have life coming at us left and right. We have all kinds of things. So just start with little things and just inch into that action, and then that fear will eventually dissipate.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your advice. Like, I'm going to go and do that later. What am I going to
do it, girl.
where can people follow you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Tenisha, Tenisha, Graham, Graham.official is my Instagram. I'm active there. And then I also have a podcast that just inspires people, cues their creativity, sparks their creativity. And that is on Spotify. It's called Cue the Creative, on Spotify or on Anchor. So feel free to listen. And yeah, I'm happy to help anyone. I'm also very close affiliated with the Inside Out Institute. I help train and write curriculum for them. I would be happy to share any information that they have about the Institute too, to really just grow from the inside out into a leader.
Yeah. Thank you for being on my show.
Yes.
And if you are catching the replay, go ahead and say #replay so we can connect with you. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I look forward to talking to you all next week. Thank you, Tanisha.
Thank you, Jacqueline. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.